I started live streaming, and this meeting is going to be recorded now.
Okay, can we begin?
Please go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you so much, Nune. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here tonight for our community forum on Let There Be Peace, LA County law enforcement roles with United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. My name is Charmaine Mosley, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission. And I just want to say how much we appreciate you all for taking time out of your evening to join us at tonight's forum. Forums like this are part of our ongoing effort to build transparency, accountability, and trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Tonight, we're bringing together experts in civilian oversight, law enforcement professionals, community advocates, and members of the public to explore and discuss law enforcement's interactions with ICE in Los Angeles County. This discussion will help shed light on the policies and operations of law enforcement agencies in relation to immigration enforcement. It is also our goal tonight to provide the public with valuable information about their rights, how to lawfully and safely protest, and how to engage with these important issues in ways that support and protect our communities. Commission Chair Johnson will serve as our moderator this evening. We are joined by representatives from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, known as LASD, who will share information about their respective policies and procedures related to ICE. We'll also hear from the Office of the Inspector General, which provides independent oversight and monitoring of LASD's practices. Additionally, we're honored to have panelists from ACLU and also CHRLA, who will speak on the broader impact of ICE operations on LA County communities. We will conclude presentations with the representative from the Office of Immigrant Affairs, who will highlight vital county resources available to immigrant communities here in Los Angeles. Before we begin, Tracy Jordan from our staff will go over the code of conduct for tonight's forum, so we're all on the same page. Following the presentations and moderated panel discussion, we'll open up the floor for questions from the public. And with that being said, thank you again for being part of this important conversation. And now I'll turn it over to Ms. Jordan. Tracy?
Thank you, Executive Director Mosley. As far as the code of conduct, please see the code of conduct that is now shared on the screen. We ask that you remain respectful and refrain from using personal, threatening, profane, derogatory, demeaning, and abuseful and disrespectful statements during your views that are expressed during this particular forum. We also ask that you be respectful when you are expressing your views during this particular event. A person that is engaging in conduct that disrupts the forum is subject to being muted. We will now turn to our colleague, or to my colleague, Robert Flores, who will make the code of conduct announcement in Spanish. Robert.
Buenas tardes. Consulte nuestro código de conducta. Le pedimos que sea respetuoso y abstenga de hacer declaraciones profanas, personales, degradantes o abusivas. Sea respetuoso con las opiniones expresadas por la audiencia, el personal y los panelistas, y no interrumpa la conducta ordenada de este foro. Una persona que incurra en una conducta que perturbe el foro está sujeta a ser silenciada. Gracias.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Tracy, for your introduction. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I welcome you to this evening's forum on LA County law enforcement roles with United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE. I'm Hans Johnson. I am chair of the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission here in LA County. In light of ICE enforcement actions in the communities throughout LA County, this forum will provide an important role for our commission and communities to learn more about and ask questions about the activities of LA County law enforcement in relation to ICE. It is important to note that we are approaching the 55th anniversary of the Chicano moratorium and Angelenos reeling from the loss of Ruben Salazar 55 years ago this month. The injustices that occurred during that event, one of the largest outpourings of Latino activism in LA history and the largest Latino-led demonstration against the Vietnam War, still persists today. Recent warrantless, racially targeted ICE raids in Los Angeles County, one of which just occurred yesterday at a Home Depot parking lot, utilizing a Penske moving truck as a Trojan horse vehicle in an operation called Operation Trojan Horse, has fueled federal immigration policies and resulted in sudden, traumatic separations of families and eroded public trust here in the community. These have all disproportionately affected Latino and immigrant communities here in Los Angeles County. We are holding this forum alongside Supervisor Hilda Solis, who authored a resolution which will be introduced at next week's Board of Supervisors meeting on the 12th of August that commemorates this 55th anniversary of the Chicano moratorium and outpouring of activism and the legacy of the late journalist Ruben Salazar, who was killed by the firing of a tear gas weapon into the Silver Dollar Bar in East LA during that day's events. The motion calls for proclaiming August 29th, 2025 as the anniversary of the National Chicano Moratorium, honoring the life of Ruben Salazar. It calls for uplifting grassroots journalism and community-based media, providing accurately, culturally relevant reporting to expose law enforcement actions that affect the immigrant and working class communities, and to connect residents to legal resources and safety net services in real time. It also would require the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to report on its use of force policies and training programs relating to the protection of journalists and reporters covering demonstrations and protests. It would call for the development of clear protocols to ensure that journalists and reporters without regard to their immigration status, feel safe and supported while reporting on and filing complaints involving department activities. It would seek feedback from the Sheriff's Oversight Commission before finalizing written reports, and it would also ensure that the Sheriff's Department present findings publicly at the COC's meeting within 90 days. This effort tonight and to engage the public and to engage the Sheriff's Department reaffirms our county's commitment to transparency, civil rights, and community safety for all residents. Starting on June 6th, 2025, ICE began a series of raids targeting communities across LA County, particularly areas with high immigrant populations. Operations occurred near workplaces, targeting specific occupations and resulting in arrests of many people, up to 3,000 Angelenos in the past 2 months. Given the deep, rich history of immigration in Los Angeles and the vitality of immigrant communities in our lives, communities, economy, and our academic life in the city, these enforcement raids have been disruptive to all aspects of our life in Los Angeles County. They've raised many important questions. The Commission has been actively involved in this area for many years, since our formation in late 2016. In 2017, the County Board of Supervisors approved a motion that the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission conduct research, review, and analysis to develop recommendations for LASD's immigration-related policies and immigrant-related enforcement activities. In 2019, the Commission issued its final report with several recommendations back to the LASD. This was after the passage of SB 54 in 2017 that greatly curtailed any participation between local, county, and state law enforcement with federal immigration enforcement. And later in 2019, the Commission issued its final report with several recommendations back to the LASD. The Sheriff's Department agreed with many of the Commission's recommendations and initiated the process of implementation. Our staff and Commission members continue to monitor the Sheriff's Department's compliance with that policy. We have a great lineup of panelists this evening. Some of us who are joining us, I think all of whom are joining us here online tonight, and we're looking forward to the important discussion that will ensue. We'll open our conversation with representatives from the LA Sheriff's Department. We have with us tonight Captain Karen Solis from the Inmate Reception Center, or IRC, and Lieutenant Tanaya Brown, who will speak about LASD's specific role and policies related to immigration and customs enforcement against those in LASD custody, released from LASD custody, and others in the community, including but not limited to the Sheriff's Department's compliance with Senate Bill 54 that I mentioned a second ago, and Assembly Bill 2792. Our Sheriff's Department representatives are joining us, as I mentioned earlier, in the context of ongoing funerals for 3 colleagues lost in the explosion at the Special Enforcement Bureau 2 weeks ago. Those were Deputies William Osborne, Deputy Joshua Kelly Eklund, and Deputy Victor Lemus, whose funerals are ongoing. Thank you in particular for our Sheriff's Department representatives for joining us in this context tonight to speak further about work on immigration and to answer questions from the community about the Sheriff's Department's involvement with immigration-related enforcement.
Thank you for having us.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lieutenant Tanaya Brown, and I am representing Patrol Operations. I'm going to go ahead and begin with our manual policy and procedures. Next slide. Our manual policy and procedures has been in place and existence since 2015, and it states the following. Department members shall investigate criminal activity without regard to an individual's legal status. Department members shall not initiate police action with the objective of discovering the individual's immigration status. Deputies shall not arrest an individual on suspicion of violating a federal immigration law relating to illegal entry, being unlawfully present, or overstaying a visa. Next slide, please. Department members shall not inquire about an individual's immigration status. If a victim, witness, or offender's immigration status is discovered during an investigation, deputies shall not forward that information to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And lastly, department members shall not use an immigration authority as an interpreter. Next slide, please. California Value Act, which is also known as SB 54, states the following. County policy prohibits department personnel from participating in civil immigration enforcement. We shall remain neutral, avoid direct involvement in immigration enforcement, and ensure that our actions and that of all of our personnel are consistent with our policy, the law, and the safety of the community in mind. We currently have a newsletter, which is volume 25, number 5, which has been posted. And I'm just going to provide just the main objectives of this and briefly discuss our newsletter. The newsletter is called Encounters Involving Possible Federal Immigration Enforcement Operations. Our objective is just to maintain public order, enforce the safety of community members, and protect the lives and safeties of federal law enforcement officers involved in the operation. What we have provided is just a groundwork for our personnel when they do encounter calls that may involve possible immigration status enforcement. What we do is we will respond to those calls accordingly, ensure that a sergeant has been assigned to the call and respond. And once we're there, what we do is we just ensure that if it is ICE, that we look at their credentials and to verify their credentials. And what we do is we just document with our body-worn cameras. And if there's any reports that need to be written, we will also do that if it's criminal in nature. But our job, as I stated, is just to maintain public order and the safety of all involved. Next slide. On July 3rd, 2025, as part of our commitment to public safety, the department released a video identifying LASD personnel. What we did was we decided that it was important for those that are community members to know that we are with them, and just to know that law enforcement is here to assist them. We are not here other than just to be here for them, and we don't want them to be afraid of us. So what we did was we uploaded a video that depicts our uniforms, badges, our insignia, and equipment that are worn by our personnel. We're going to go ahead and play the video for you.
With over 10,000 sworn positions carrying out patrol and specialized operations throughout Los Angeles County every day, the LASD has strict uniform policies that all personnel are required to follow while on duty. The most common uniform is the Class A patrol uniform with olive drab green pants and a tan shirt that can be long or short sleeved. Sworn personnel wear the 6-pointed gold-colored metal LASD star and a gold metal nameplate. Each Class A uniform shirt has Los Angeles County Sheriff shoulder patches. Visually similar, lightweight patrol uniforms may be worn with either a metal badge or a cloth badge sewn into the uniform. Deputy personnel do not wear face coverings, and they will always have their name or badge number present on their uniforms. Detectives, executives, and sworn department members in an administrative role may wear professional business attire with a green nameplate reading Sheriff's Department, County of Los Angeles. The department member's name and rank appear below a mini gold star. If armed, department members will also have their badge on their belt. Sworn personnel can wear an olive drab green outer duty carrier on top of their clothing. The front will have a cloth 6-pointed star badge, the word sheriff in gold lettering, the deputy's last name sewn in the vest, and sheriff on the back in gold lettering. Several specialized units such as Special Enforcement Bureau, which includes SWAT teams, arson explosive details, K9, and Aero Bureau, may wear olive green coveralls with sheriff on the back. The lettering, embroidered badge, name, and shoulder patches may be either gold or black. Other specialized units will wear polo-style shirts with the sewn-on gold badge and gold embroidered name on the front of the shirt. Jackets are also green. They can be lightweight with gold lettering on the back reading Sheriff or Los Angeles County Sheriff. The front of the jacket will have a gold star and last name of the department member. Heavier jackets have a sewn-on fabric star badge and name tape with shoulder patches sewn on the sleeves. Either a star badge, shoulder patches, sheriff on the back, or any combination of the above will distinguish our employees from those of other law enforcement agencies. If you have any doubt about the authenticity of a specific member of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, you can request a supervisor to your location.
This video has been uploaded to our lsd.org website, and it's also in English and also Spanish for everyone's viewing. Next slide.
With over 10,000.
Another question that was raised was people's First Amendment rights to record any type of law enforcement interaction. And I just want to go ahead and provide that policy for you. And it states the following: members of the public, including the press, have a First Amendment right to observe, take photographs, and record video or audio at any place where they are lawfully present. Members of the public have the same right to take photographs and record video and audio as members of the press, except for narrow circumstances authorizing press access, which would be during calamities such as a flood, storm, fire, earthquake, explosion, accident, or other natural disaster. Members of the public have the right to take photographs and record video and audio of peace officers engaged in public discharge of their duties, including in such activities as detentions, searches, and arrests, as long as the member of the public are in places in which they are legally right to be present. The types of places where they're allowed to be present, which would be public streets and sidewalks, an individual's home or business, or any other public or private facility at which the individual is lawfully present. Next slide. Finally, I just want to let you know that nothing in this policy that we have prevents officers from taking appropriate action if a person taking photographs, recording video, or audio is violating any provision of law. For example, if you're engaging in other actions that may jeopardize the safety of the person, the officer, or others, violating the law, or inciting others to violate the law, or interfering with or obstructing police actions through direct physical intervention. Next slide.
Good evening. My name is Captain Karen Solis of the Inmate Reception Center, and I'm going to cover our policy in regards to those who are in our custody. Custody Division Manual states that the department shall not transfer inmates into the custody of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, based solely on civil immigration detainers. ICE agents shall not be allowed access to any custody facility or station jail to conduct civil immigration enforcement. The department will honor judicial orders or judicial criminal warrants provided by ICE, and those are issued by judges. Inmates shall be given a physical copy of any ICE detainer received for them and verbally notified of the department's policy concerning transfers into ICE custody. A bond or bail presented on behalf of an inmate with an ICE detainer shall be accepted. The presence of an ICE detainer shall not be used as a reason to refuse bond or bail, nor to delay the release of an inmate. And the bottom line is that we do not cooperate with civil immigration detainers. However, judicial warrants that are issued by judges, those are honored, and we do transfer based on judicial warrants for those that are in our custody. Next slide, please. This is some stats regarding our civil detainers. In 2024, LASD received 995 civil detainers from ICE. No inmates were transferred to ICE pursuant to those civil detainers. Through July of 2025, we have received 586 civil detainers. And again, no inmates have been transferred to ICE pursuant to those civil detainers. Through June of 2025, there have been 20 inmates transferred due to judicial warrants, though. Next slide. This is just additional regarding the department. For any questions or complaints, you can contact Sheriff's Information Bureau or IAB. The phone numbers for both are listed there. And all of our policies are available online at lasd.org, and they can be accessed there, what we just showed on the slides. Thank you.
Before we proceed, I did want to just take a moment to ask a simple question of Lieutenant Brown, if you can, because the presentation focused on those instances where sheriff's deputies might be called to verify the credentials of someone presenting as an ICE agent or a federal agent. What about any circumstance that you might be aware of where someone was not able to demonstrate proper federal identification?
I am not aware of any instances.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll follow up offline, but I did want to just make sure that instead of focusing on the instances where things can be presumed to be in order, instances where they might not have been in order, which I think is one that interests some of our attendees and other panelists tonight. Thank you again, both, for your presentations, and I hope you can stay with us.
We will. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank our panelists so far, and opening up the floor for representatives from the ACLU of Southern California. With us tonight is Andres Kwan, Senior Policy Counsel and Organizer, who will share his thoughts on the policies of local law enforcement, agencies related to personnel, and public identifiers, including visible badges, names, allowable masks, and policies related to commotion response. Andres, welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Thank you for the invitation. I think we have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to actually try to do it in less than 10 minutes in case Chair Johnson and others have any follow-up questions. I'm gonna start with the broad history and context of the LA County Sheriff's Department and its entanglement with ICE and with federal immigration enforcement. So LA County it was always among has always been the epicenter of the federal deportation agenda, and was among the first to collaborate with and pioneer and roll out federal deportation programs. For example, in 2005, LA County was among the first in the nation to roll out this ICE program called 287G that basically deputized LAC deputies to act as immigration agents. So you had in the IRC custody assistants and deputies basically racially profiling and picking people out of the release line based on the color of their skin, country of birth, whether they spoke or did not speak English, or whether they spoke English with an accent. Some of the factors that are involved in our current lawsuit against the federal government, as you know, and then interrogated them as if they were immigration agents. And one too many people were deported that way. And in fact, as we know, the LASD keeps the largest local jail in the country. And at its peak, the LA County Sheriff's Department was transferring more people to ICE for detention and deportation than any state except for Texas. About 10,000 people a year, the LA County Sheriff's Department was transferring to ICE. Next slide, please. And who are we talking about? What are the people that who have been impacted over the years by this collusion between LASD and LA County and ICE? We're talking about people like Hector Barajas, a deported veteran who has been just an inspirational leader in building the Deported Veterans Project and helping to return many veterans who've been deported after serving. We were able to bring him back home, but he was transferred by the Sheriff's Department to ICE, right? Just several years ago, we were able to bring him back home to Compton. We're talking about Luis George Lopez, a South LA resident for almost 40 years, since he was 1 year old. A judge had ordered him released, but LAC transferred him from the downtown LA court. We found him in the Adelanto detention center, where he had spent about 19 months, and he was at risk of at high risk in light of COVID-19, and we're able to, alongside Esperanza, release him from Adelanto. We're talking about Ken Mendoza. Many folks here know Kent. He's with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. He was transferred by the Sheriff's Department, and by the grace of God, he was not deported, and he was able to turn his life around and become a leader in LA County for criminal legal system reform, and was part of our Zero ICE Transfers campaign. Next slide, please. There's a lot of text, but basically, former Sheriff McDonald fully colluded with ICE, and even when, after Trump's first election and the first Trump regime, and when we, the Immigrant Rights Movement in LA, were working around the clock to maximize local level protections, he was fighting against those protections. In particular, he actively lobbied against SB 54, ultimately weakening the bill that became law. The bill that passed, the original bill that passed a supermajority of the state Senate, only had a limitation for a collaboration with ICE for serious and violent felony convictions, but he helped to water down that limitation, and basically, as we'll see in the next slide, SB 54, which became the law of the land and an important state sanctuary law, it still allowed for local law enforcement agencies to be entangled with ICE and to transfer individuals based on a wide and complex web of not only felony convictions, but also misdemeanor offenses. And the important thing here is to understand that even though SB 54 is incredibly important, and it's protected thousands of families and keeping thousands of families together in California over the years, it's only a legal floor. And so local jurisdictions can pass stronger sanctuary ordinances and laws and policies that go above and beyond the protections of SB 54. So the sheriff in San Bernardino and Kern need to abide by SB 54. LA County could pass stronger protections, which we ultimately did. Next slide, please. Now, specifically, SB 54 prohibits these pre-arrest categories, including making arrests on civil immigration warrants, asking about immigration status, or using immigration agents as interpreters. It does put some limitations on joint task forces, in particular, if the primary purpose of the task force, joint task force, must be unrelated to immigration enforcement. It also it includes some strong protections against arrests and criminal violations of immigration law. Next slide, please. In terms of SB 54 protections in the jails, it completely prohibits immigration holds, which is what the LA County Sheriff's Department was doing. They were holding on to people beyond their time of release. For this policy, against this policy, we sued LA County and the Sheriff's Department in Roy v. County of Los Angeles, where we ultimately settled with the county for $14 million. It prohibited 287G programs, which LA had, but then by policy and motion led by Supervisor Hilda Solis, LA County did end the 287G program before SB 54 and the state sanctuary laws prohibited it. It's also limited the sharing of personal information with ICE and notification of release dates and transfers, except that there are a wide array of exceptions, which at least in LA County, we have done away with. Next slide, please. So we know that McDonald, former Sheriff McDonald, lost. He was the first incumbent in 100 years to lose a re-election bid. And Villanueva, former Sheriff Villanueva, eked out a historic win by just a handful of votes, essentially, based on largely his promise to kick us out of the jails. But he pulled a major bait and switch and continued to collude with ICE. And in 2019, in Villanueva's first year in office, the Sheriff's Department transferred almost 500 Angelinos to ICE. Next slide. So we worked with the COC. This was 6 years ago now, in 2019, with a former COC member, Hernan Vera, now federal judge Vera. The COC issued this report that included many of our recommendations, including a complete ban on ICE transfers and notifications to ICE absent a judicial warrant, essentially. Next slide. And so we, with the Check the Sheriff Coalition and the Zero ICE Transfers campaign, we set out to completely end warrantless ICE transfers. We, lifted up how, the Sheriff's Department was spending $1.5 million, essentially aiding ICE detention, when the county was also spending $1.5 million with the, at the time, LA Justice Fund, now the Represent LA program, to fund the protection defense. So it was just completely inefficient and counterintuitive, and also it hurt and harmed public trust in LA County government. So we, with Hilda Solis's leadership, we passed a motion in September 1st, 2020, that completely prohibited ICE transfers absent a judicial warrant, as the LAC representative mentioned. So you can see in this data that since then there have been zero ICE transfers, warrantless ICE transfers. Now, in the past couple of months, presumably pursuant to this so-called Operation Guardian Angel, we basically shows that the LA County sanctuary policy is working, because we're making the federal government do its due diligence and show probable cause to arrest somebody. and get a judicial sign-off, a judge sign-off to do this. And so they've been presenting judicial warrants, and so technically this would not be ICE transfers, there will be DOJ transfers based on judicial warrants. And there have been about 19 at least through June 30th. Next slide, please. So lastly, just some quick recommendations. LA County has a sensitive locations policy. At least last we checked, and we met with the OIA and with Rigo and with the team. It's supposed to sunset in October of this year, so it should be extended and expanded. Excuse me. We as a county and the COC, the board, and the Sheriff's Department need to ensure that any mutual aid does not in any way advance immigration enforcement, and we need to further limit joint task forces. We need to ensure that citizenship or immigration status information is not collected unless required by law. I believe that in the booking process, based on California law, place of birth needs to be collected, but place of birth does not necessarily entail, it does not necessarily guarantee that someone is an immigrant or I mean, not an immigrant, but a citizen or a non-citizen. And so any information besides that should not be collected by the Sheriff's Department, because presumably that needs to be shared with the federal government if asked, based on Section 1373, although arguably that law is unconstitutional, but it has not been litigated over. The county should also significantly expand funding for Represent LA and fully implement Roy v. County of LA. The settlement there, in particular, the funding for the public defender offices to represent clients who cannot avoid deportation proceedings, to represent them in immigration court. And finally, last but not least, the county should take leadership here and encourage every city in LA County to not only adopt a sanctuary ordinance, as LA City has done, as we recently did in Huntington Park, but also, if not, at a minimum, every city must fully comply with SB 54.
Thank you, Andres. That was a thorough and well narrated presentation, taking us through the last decade and recapping some really important points that included some bulletins, even for me, who works significantly in this area. We'll now hear from a representative from the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in Los Angeles, CHIRLA. The Director of Policy, Jeanette Zanipatin, has joined us tonight. Will speak about the impact of ICE enforcement activities on LA County communities, with a particular focus on young people. Welcome tonight to the COC Forum, Jeanette.
Thank you for having me, Chair Johnson and Director Mosley. I'm really happy to be here, and also with my colleagues here from the ACLU. Again, my name is Jeanette Zanipatin. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy at CHIRLA. I oversee all of CHIRLA's federal, state, and local policy work, as well as help lead our impact litigation team. And for many, for all of those out there, CHIRLA also runs the Los Angeles Rapid Response Network, which is the network of trained volunteers that helps document the many immigration enforcement activities that have happened in Los Angeles, especially since June 6th. And just to give folks a little bit of context, at the beginning of the year, we had about 200 volunteers for our Rapid Response Network. We now have over 1,300 volunteers that are trained volunteers to document the abuses that they see happening, to confirm ICE sightings and ICE operations, and to also speak to families and family members or friends of individuals who have been arrested and or detained. And to that end, CHIRLA works to ensure that all residents of Los Angeles County have the tools necessary that they need right at their disposal to not only protect themselves from being arrested and detained, but also to provide services for those families who do have detained individuals or loved ones that are detained as well. And additionally, as many as we all know here in Los Angeles, we have seen a number of folks that have had legal status. Folks arrested at immigration court, folks arrested, at the USCIS office, the immigration offices for their check-ins, as well as U.S. citizens. And to that end, we've also worked to try to locate individuals once they are arrested and detained, because the sheer number of arrests and detentions that were happening, especially right after June 6th, were just so many. And both the detainee locator website, which is an online platform that allows you to try to locate someone who's been detained, and/or the court process website, both of them just were not being updated. And so we had to work with members of Congress, we had to work with city council members, board of supervisors, as well as our state representatives, both state senators and assembly members, to help locate individuals. So next slide. So we've all seen this, how enforcement has been playing out here in Los Angeles County. But what we've witnessed is a multi-federal agency assault here in Los Angeles County. And it is the alphabet soup of federal agencies. It is FBI, DEA, ATF, CBP, HSI, ICE, BTF, among others. We also, among other agencies as well. We also believe that we also had potentially deputized law enforcement, potentially from other states. We also believe that there were bounty hunters as well that may have been deputized to engage in these enforcement activities. And we are still investigating all of these claims, but definitely saw, like I said, the alphabet soup of federal agencies here in Los Angeles and throughout the county. In addition to that, the arrests and detentions were just a mass violation of constitutional rights. We know that this administration wants to carry out the largest deportation operation in our nation's history. And to that end, they are just not following basic constitutional rights and are operating in illegal ways. We have a federal administration that has descended in the county of Los Angeles to really cause chaos and terror on our streets to all of our residents. The primary focus has been on people of color and communities of color. But when we see these agents on our streets with military gear, with rifles, they are compromising all of our public safety, and we need to all be aware of that. And we need to be, upset and rightfully so protest and speak out about the atrocities that we're seeing committed against all of our county residents. And with that, I will let you know that since June 6th, we've had about 1,700 sightings reported through our rapid response hotline. And just to be clear, Chirla is scratching the surface of all the enforcement activities. We cannot be everywhere, but every call that comes in, we try to, push it through to the right team of volunteers so that they can confirm these sightings. And of those 1,700 reported sightings, we have collected over 513 rapid response reports. And many of the locations, as we all know, have been locations like garment factories, day labor centers, where day laborers, wait for work or are ready to work for individuals. We also see them descend into nursing homes, car washes, metro stations, and street vending sidewalks as well. We've also had reports of ICE enforcement activities taking place at churches. And so no place is safe. And unfortunately, this administration did rescind the safe locations memo back in January. But despite that, it's still really important for our county and our city to continue to designate places as safe havens and locations for individuals. Next slide, please. So what have we done with all this data that we've collected? We've created this heat map. We have looked, this is a snapshot of Los Angeles County and all of the reports that have come in through our hotline, and we have broken down all the reports by zip codes. As you can see, there's some zip codes or some areas that have not been as impacted. Those that are darker are where we have seen a lot of enforcement activities taking place. This is something that we also released a few weeks ago and worked with Senator Padilla as well to give him this information because of the sheer breadth and depth of the level of enforcement that has plagued Los Angeles County over the last several weeks. Next slide, please. So here again is a breakdown of our heat map. These are the areas of focus for federal enforcement activity. And this is pretty much up to date. We updated it today. So it's all those incidents reported through our Los Angeles Rapid Response Network between June 6th and August 7th. And what we see, if you sort of look at the data, is that there are some hotspots, obviously, here in Los Angeles County. In San Fernando Valley, for example, we have over 1,800,000 population. Our immigrant population alone in San Fernando Valley constitutes about 38% of the population. Latinos are designated about 42% of that population, and we've seen over 40 operations alone in San Fernando Valley. Other areas include Pico Rivera, Whittier, and Downey. This area has been particularly hit as well. Again, Whittier and Downey and Pico Rivera with a population, and I'm getting older, so I know I need glasses, but I believe it says 62,000. After you hit 40, we need those glasses, right? And our immigrant population is about 30%, and the Latino population is 98% in those jurisdictions. And so we see a high concentration of immigration enforcement operations. And then the last one is Hollywood, Echo Park, and Silver Lake. This also surprised me as well. Our population is about 83,000 there. Immigrants comprise about 34% of that population. And again, Latinos make up about 65% of the population. So again, we are seeing targeted enforcement efforts in predominantly immigrant communities, immigrant heavy segments of our county, as well as those jurisdictions that have predominantly high numbers of Latinos. And this has caused alarm for everyone. I know folks who are US born, folks who are naturalized, who are carrying their birth certificates, their naturalization certificates, or even their passports. And no one is really safe from this. And I will say I have a daughter that is a senior in high school. She needed to do an errand in downtown Los Angeles. I said, absolutely not. Here's your here's a copy of your birth certificate. And I went with her as well. And so this is really so pervasive. All of us are just really under just fear and confusion in terms of what's happening. And imagine that, I am an immigration lawyer. I speak English. I was born here. Our communities that are undocumented are just experiencing 1,000 times more fear than any one of us. And so I just want to put that into context, that this is really impacting folks. I will say too, it is changing a lot of people's behavior patterns. Folks are just too afraid to go to work. We know that a lot of enforcement operations start at around 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. So morning hours, folks try to stay in. Folks are really afraid to go to work. They're afraid to go to their medical appointments. They are afraid to go to their summer activities and their programs. And so we're seeing really pervasive impacts on communities of color. And at this moment, many are just sheltering in place. And that is just the reality for a large percentage of our population here in Los Angeles County. Next slide. So I did want to focus what the impact has been on youth. And just to give you a little bit of context, the day that the military descended on MacArthur Park, which I believe was July 7th, there was a summer camp operating that day. It was day one of that summer camp. And the mayor told this story at our press conference and told some of the advocates that were there before the press conference that she spoke to a 6-year-old who was afraid of seeing the military at MacArthur Park. The 6-year-old clearly understood that these individuals were there to make arrests and that these individuals could potentially arrest his parents. And so even 6-year-olds, a child, understands the severity of what we're seeing in public places and throughout Los Angeles County. So just to give that context and how this is really impacting our youth. So it's definitely having, mental health impacts. Children are living in fear with family separation. It's really scary, again, for them to see active military in places like MacArthur Park and in their neighborhoods, full military gear, full rifles, and seeing them point those rifles at civilians is really taking its toll on our youth. We also see students just really being unable to concentrate in programs and in school. Summer school is operating and they're having a lot of trouble just concentrating and being able to focus on school. This is a place where kids should be free of distractions and have full concentration, and it's really difficult for them. I will also say, school is starting this week. Children should be excited about going to school, excited about getting maybe new clothes and getting school supplies. A lot of that is just not happening with our students. We also see students also balancing major family responsibilities and school, right? We have students who have to take on the role of caregiver. Oftentimes children have status or are citizens, so they are doing the grocery shopping for mom and dad. In some instances, students are working with their parents and taking over maybe their street vending operations to lend a hand and taking shift for their parents and taking on that financial responsibility for the family and their siblings, which is very, very heavy for a young person. Again, students also are not participating in programs because they just have to take on the role of being the caregiver or the parents. Chirla has a summer youth program that we run every summer, and this year we've seen a huge drop in enrollment because students just tell us they are not able to leave their house. They do not want to leave their parents unattended. They're afraid of immigration enforcement, and they just have to pick up the slack, whether it's economically or take care of their siblings, because they just don't have the liberty, the privilege, right, to be able to not provide for their family in the ways that they are able to provide. And so we are seeing a lot of students juggle school and work just to support their families. And then we are seeing just a big impact on newcomer populations. We do have a lot of students that have come in requesting asylum and have active court cases. And so at our Dream Resource Centers for students, we do have newcomers that are just scared, not showing up to school, very disengaged, again, unable to learn properly. And students fear even going to court, going to their immigration appointments because of all the arrests that we have seen at courthouses, at immigration, on the streets. It is just sending a chilling effect throughout our youth. So I will ask for the next slide.
Jeanette, we're running a little behind. I just want to ask if you can wrap up shortly.
Yeah, so I just have some recommendations. UTLA, for example, has created an Adopt a School program. I think that's something that maybe we can all do and participate in. We also want to make sure that schools are being protected and do not want ICE anywhere near schools. There's a bill running at the state legislature that would enhance school protocols. And, it's just really important to continue to build trust with immigrant communities. We want to make sure that trust is not eroded with law enforcement. And so making sure that, and it was great that what they showed the video earlier, that law enforcement has clearly identifiable uniforms, that they also understand that when interacting with maybe ICE officials or federal officials, the community is seeing that interaction, and so just be really cognizant of how they're interacting. But with that, I will go ahead and end and just stay on hand if there are any questions. But thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much. And I want to note that next Thursday, being the first day of school here in Los Angeles, there is a school-based effort to have teachers and volunteers out to express welcome to students and to overcome the climate of pervasive fear that Jeanette has so ably described, that is eating into every aspect of our community lives. And I do want to recognize the work of Andres and ACLU, which did win the federal court injunction on July 11th against roving patrols targeting Angelenos based on race and language, which still remains in effect despite efforts to overturn that injunction. With that, I want to turn to our next panelist, and that is Dara Williams from the Office of Inspector General, who will update us on OIG's monitoring and observation efforts related to the Sheriff's Department's role and policies associated with ICE enforcement and those in LASD custody and compliance with SB 54 and AB 2792. Dara, it's great to have you with us tonight. You may begin.
Thank you. I think what's really important about immigration and the tactics the federal government uses or currently using, is that there's so many different Sheriff's Department policies that come into play because, for instance, we have the identification issue. And I would just like to point out that while they are required to have a nameplate, there are certain instances at protests, for instance, if they're wearing helmets, that they are permitted, in fact, to have identifying information on their helmet instead of on their uniform. And I just want to note that because, it's very important that they don't wear masks and that they are known by name. And that's because, we have a system where the public can complain about police misconduct. And the only way to truly figure out who did something is if they have the identifying information somewhere on them. So I just want to point out that there is a provision for them to wear it on their helmets, if not on their clothing. And that brings us also to the use of force at protests. Previously, the Office of Inspector General reported that a few years ago, after the George Floyd protests, a federal court actually told the Sheriff's Department by way of injunction limitations on what they can do as far as crowd control. And some of those measures are now in the Sheriff's Department Manual of Policy and Procedure. And one great thing about the Sheriff's Department that I will say is that their manuals are online, their newsletters are online, they're very easily searchable through the LASD PARS viewer. And the policies with regard to the use of less lethal weapons during civil unrest and the use of kinetic energy projectiles and chemical weapons to disperse crowds, that policy is also on their website. And they are limited from using these, and there are very specific instances that their policies allow these things to be used. We inquired of the Sheriff's Department whether they had any sort of policies such as LAPD's Keep the Peace policies. And I am happy to report that they have messaged out department-wide some of these policies, including what they call a Field Operations Support Services 25-05 that talks about encounters involving possible federal immigration enforcement operations. And it tells deputies what to do. It tells rules for documenting and reporting information. It has policies with regard to what the supervisors should do and what watch commanders should do. In addition to that, there is also what's called a SHAD, and I should know what SHAD stands for, but there is a watch commander checklist that is incredibly important, and it's detailed. It's SAD 757. And that actually has a checklist for watch commanders to ask questions if they're at the scene of federal immigration enforcement, if they're asked to assist federal officials in any way. And it specifically says that if it's an execution of a federal immigration arrest warrant, that the answer to the federal government is no, we will not assist you. But as I indicated, it has a very thorough checklist that's 4 pages long, and it says yes, no, help, don't help. And it makes it very clear to the watch commanders what they can and can't do. I think that these are really important policies, and I think it's very important that they've messaged them to the entire department so that people are clear about the limits on how the Sheriff's Department and their deputies can interact with federal government officials when it comes to immigration enforcement. And I would go through the whole checklist, but honestly, there's so many things on it that I suggest that if anybody wants them, they're more than welcome to email me and I'll send them, but these are available for the most part online. The other thing that I want to mention that I think is really important at this juncture is the federal government getting access to information in Sheriff Department databases. State law, in many instances, prohibits information from going to the federal government, but not in all instances. As we know on LiveScan, which is the fingerprinting system, the state, California Department of Justice, actually requires that certain information be collected on those LiveScan forms. And that information is shared with the federal government. So with no intention of the sheriff's department or the county wanting to assist the federal government, there are ways that the federal government is assisted just by access to information. In our next quarterly report, which should be out by late August, we have a section on automatic license plate readers. And this is really important because the state law is very clear that the information can only be shared with public agencies within the state of California. It cannot be shared with federal officials. However, we don't know what's going to happen down the line. We know the City of Los Angeles. At one point in time, the County of Los Angeles was on the bad list, but the newest bad list we're not on. That doesn't mean we won't be put on the bad list again. And the thing is that their Trump administration has, as we've seen through the way they've treated universities, they have ways of essentially either going to court or trying to extort the information. Going to court, we don't know. We don't know if the Supreme Court will say, oh no, the federal supremacy clause means that California can't withhold data from the federal government. We don't know the answer to that question. And I think it's safe to say that we don't know the answer to that question because I think there are some instances where the Supreme Court has ruled recently that many of us would be surprised by. So the Sheriff's Department, for their license plate readers, for instance, keeps 5 years of information. And if the federal government were able to get their hands on that, I don't know what they would do with that. And you'll see this in our quarterly report, other agencies have a shorter retention period. I guess the only thing we can be happy about is that the federal government has fired so many people that I don't know that they have the people to go through the information. But really what we should be concerned about is the fact that information that was never intended to be sent to the federal government for the purposes of immigration enforcement may be sent to the federal government and they may use it for immigration enforcement. And we've seen that, in the lawsuit and also in an executive order, the Trump administration has specifically said that, federal funding is at stake. And so then the state and the county might have to make some hard decisions about what are we going to do if federal funding is cut off, especially right now when the county has just had to pay out a huge sum on lawsuits. And when the county is facing a potential, budget shortfall. So these things are all in the mix. And, we talk about immigration enforcement, but then there's just so many different issues that are at play here that it's really hard to cover them all. So I hope I've given a sort of good overview. OIG, we reported that ICE were in the jails. That was before my time when the Sheriff's Department was reporting that ICE wasn't in the jails. And I'd like to think that a series of reports that we did with regard to the Truth Act and the Values Act had some impact on the Sheriff's Department, moving in the direction that it did to only honor federal judicial warrants and not civil detainers.
Thank you.
Anyway, and I'm obviously here for any questions.
Thank you, Dara, and thank you for being on the job as it relates to the license plate readers and for reporting further on that, an issue that the Oversight Commission and our Technology Ad Hoc Committee, winding down its work, but ready to wind back up our work on that issue, is taking a look at. Thank you for flagging that for our participants this evening. I now want to turn to our final panelist, and that is Rigoberto Reyes, who's the director of the Office of Immigrant Affairs, to speak about immigrant rights and local resources for getting support with immigration-related issues and challenges facing community members. Rigoberto, it's wonderful to have you with us tonight. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. It's just such an honor to be here and have the opportunity to spend a few minutes going over some of the issues we see our community is facing and some of the things we're doing to try to be of help. Certainly, the county has time after time reminded our communities and our county departments that we stand with our immigrant communities, and we are ready to provide the services we have to all, irrespective of immigration status. So I'll frame my comments in regard to what we are doing to train our county departments to understand what is going on, and similarly working to educate our partners in the community so they understand what services we have and how we can work together to get this information out to our communities, and in a way that they'll trust that we are here to help. And most importantly, the work we are doing in partnership with our stakeholders to connect with communities, as everyone just before me has mentioned, for folks who are extremely concerned about what's going on and reluctant to access services. Next slide, please. So I will say that if you can switch to the next slide, that just gives us a broad overview of the various things we're doing. But again, from the very beginning of the year, we embarked really on a very intentional initiative to train our county departments. And this is in partnership with the Office of the County Counsel and some of the legal service organizations, such as CHIRLAC, who did that terrific presentation just a few minutes ago, to let the departments know, again, what is going on in the community and what is expected of us under the sensitive locations policy. So we started with the departments that are most impacted, including our county hospitals. Then we moved on to the Department of Public Social Services, mental health, health services in general, and many, many others. We have trained thousands and thousands of county employees, many more than once, in regard to our county sensitive locations policy, as well as the county's policy on non-collaboration with ICE. So that is to ensure that when a resident, regardless of their immigration status, comes to us, that we are ready and able to help them in a way that they feel reassured and that they get the service that they are in needing so much. At the same time, we have been working closely with those organizations that serve our communities because we know that they understand better than anyone else what is going on the ground. And at the same time, they have built those bridges, that trust with the communities. And through them, we connect in regard to the services the county has. And more importantly, ensuring that the residents react to our message, again, that the county is here to serve and protect them to the extent that we are able to do. And so as we do that, training, sort of what we call train the trainer, we then line up lots and lots of workshops directly for the public, lately more so virtually than in person for obvious reasons. And the message is always consistent, that the county is here to support our immigrant communities and that our departments are ready and our doors are open for them to get the services we need. Now, what are some of those services that we see communities having so much need for? The list is very long, is not much different in many aspects than any other community, but particularly I like to highlight 3 or 4, starting with immigration legal services. So our office has, over the years, built up a program we refer to as Represent LA, in partnership again with our legal service organizations throughout our communities. Right now, we have contracts with 2 lead organizations to help us administer the program, Chirla and Carecen, and they subcontract with a total of 12 organizations that provide full scope removal defense legal services, as well as more limited scope affirmative services for special populations that are desperately trying to figure out how to protect themselves. So immigration legal services, it is one of the services that we are very intentional in not just maintaining what we have, but continue to ask the board, the city. This is a program funded through the county and the city for now, and we're hoping to keep raising money to increase services to meet the demand that has resulted out of this recent weeks' aggressive immigration enforcement. Another area that is very crucial for us is ensuring that workers understand that regardless of their immigration status, they have rights and protections, and that they need to be paid their minimum wage, and that their protections remain regardless. So we work internally with our Office of Labor Equity and externally with the many of our partners, CBOs, including some of those in the Represent LA program, to connect with the workers and provide them the support they need. Equally important is tenants, making sure that immigrant tenants understand their rights. We are seeing an increase in a number of reports where landlords use immigration threats as a way to avoid addressing issues tenants are facing. We need tenants to know that that is unacceptable. It's actually illegal, and they need to report it when that comes up. The other space where we see complaints has to do with consumer fraud. And this is particularly with immigration services that taken advantage of the desperation and need of our immigrant communities, are targeting them with particularly social media messaging that they have the solution, that they know the attorneys, that they know the special laws that would protect them from what's going on. We are cautioning immigrants to be extremely careful when someone promises a magic solution, and it's only will not only taking their thousands of dollars, but the worst situation is when someone pays for a service that gets filed on their behalf that they are not eligible for, and we know that that is eventually going to lead to some bad action against the person, and eventually or potentially result in removal from the country. So we want to remind everyone that on our website, if you can, next slide, please, go to our website. We have what we call a resources hub. You can find all this information that I'm referring to in a lot more detail. There is our contact number, toll free. We have greeting messages and an inability for folks to leave us a message in 8 different languages other than English. And then we have the ability to connect with them, again, to see what they're having issues with, and understand what help to provide them. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to remind our audience here that we have a number of events scheduled daily. In fact, we were reviewing some of the events yesterday alone, more than 7 events that either we conducted or we participated in just one day alone. So we have this calendar of events on our website that gets updated continuously. Please, check it out. What we want immigrants and their families is to get the right information about the situation they're facing so they can make informed decisions rather than being misled by those who are occasionally or intentionally actually trying to harm them. I'm going to stop here. I know we're short on time, just in case there are some questions. But again, the website is there. We have the information. People can walk in. We know that's not the most viable way now, given the fear that is going on in our communities, but we want to be available where the immigrants are. And I'm just going to mention here for 20 seconds that we built a mobile unit that goes out in the community, particularly in homeless shelters, seeing what the unhoused immigrants in those facilities are in need of. And we have a team of CBOs that are part of that team that assess the situation from legal services, mental health, case management, connection to other wraparound services to provide the help where folks are, where they need it. So it's a joint effort. We understand we cannot even think about doing this without the help of our partners internally with our county department's family, as well as the stakeholders in the community. Together, we think we were making a dent into what's going on and really acknowledging the resiliency of our communities, that in spite of all what's going on, they continue to try hard, and we believe that eventually they'll prevail. I mean, we'll together we can make a difference.
Thank you, Rigo. Thank you for the detailed remarks and for the KYR resources provided here and the various ways that Angelinos can connect with them. I want to thank all the speakers for your participation this evening, and I want to turn it over briefly to Tracy Jordan for a brief announcement.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask all of the panelists to please turn on your cameras as we turn it back over to Chair Johnson, who will now move to our next section of the event. Thank you. I turn it back over to you, Chair.
Our time for questions is somewhat abbreviated here, but I want to ask one initial question of all the panelists about appropriate channels for filing complaints about ICE-related activities. We may all have doubts about the efficacy of those complaint channels, given the lawlessness and some of the unlawful tactics that we're seeing. But I do want to make sure that we take advantage of documenting complaints and to ask them for their feedback on what channels for making complaints are most efficacious.
I mean, obviously, reporting things to the sheriff's department is probably the most direct way to get the sheriff's department to do something. And with the reporting to post requirements, depending on what the conduct is, it's possible that the sheriff's department has to report it to post. Another option is to actually report it to post if it is certainly if it's an excessive use of force or something of that matter. There is on the website for posts, civilians can send them complaints about sheriff's deputy. if the complaints go to post, the sheriff's department then gets the complaint from post. And so it is a way, reporting it to post directly is one way to ensure that the sheriff's department has to investigate. To be fair, we don't usually see that there's a problem with them conducting investigation. What we do see is that there's the most investigations don't result in a finding of any sort of misconduct by the deputy. And so that's the biggest problem is not so much that whether they get the complaint or don't get the complaint, it's what happens to the complaint when.
And I want to note that the COC ourselves is working on a complaint process. We have a complaint committee chaired by our newest commissioner, our second newest commissioner, Arthur Calloway, the first representative on the commission from the Antelope Valley. And we expect more developments on that coming forward. But I do want to ask Jeanette and Andres, if you have suggestions on complaints regarding ICE agents' conduct or that involving agents of questionable credentials in the county.
I think we've seen some folks try to file complaints with their local police departments. I know in Ontario there was an incident and an arrest of a U.S. citizen, and he walked in and was adamant about filing that complaint with the Ontario Police Department. I think that's one mechanism. I also think it's important to engage members of Congress, again, because they are able to access information much quicker than most of us. And they do have some federal oversight, right? There is federal oversight of detention centers, for example, but they at least are also helping to document some of these abuses and are able to also, talk about this with their fellow members of Congress as well. So I think it's important to loop in our members of Congress into what we're seeing as well.
Yes, and maybe the tackling of our Senator, Alex Padilla, has had a backlash in that more people are inclined to be aware of our federal representatives and to seek recourse through those who are, I think, all the more eager to provide some accountability when witnessing a colleague being so savagely tackled and handcuffed as our Senator, Alex Padilla, was in his hometown here in Los Angeles on live television.
Hi, this is Lieutenant Brown. Just real quick, the question was initially about ICE complaints, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any complaints regarding ICE should be submitted to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, CRCL, and their website is https://www.dhs.gov/CRCL.
This is Andres with the ACLU. Frankly, how effective complaining with a very government institution that is abusing people's rights is questionable. I would add to what Jeanette said and make sure that people have the LA Rapid Response Network number, because at a minimum, we can document these abuses. And especially if they are violations of the temporary restraining order and the court order enjoining the federal government from, at a minimum, carrying out suspicious stops.
Yeah, sorry, just to add to that, I would also say, after 9/11, we were told to, if you see anything, report it. I think that's the mantra that we need to have in Los Angeles County, especially with the restraining orders being upheld and the recent raid that we saw occur yesterday. It's just we have to be reporting and documenting everything that we see.
Thank you all, including our LSD representatives. And it's important to supplement federal channels of complaint now with all local mechanisms that we can, in part because of the very unreliability of federal recourse through agencies that so often take their megaphone and use their bully pulpit to mock Angelenos, not necessarily to provide relief or recourse. With that, I want to ask if we have any questions from participants in the limited time we have left.
I do have my hand raised, Chair Johnson,
yes.
So I can go ahead. And it's just about the complaint process, because I'm interested in knowing if somebody was to walk into LASD to file a complaint, will that complaint be forwarded to Homeland Security, or will that person be given the information to send it to Homeland Security? What does that process look like?
Hi, so currently LASD would not take a complaint for somebody that's not our employee. We could assist in providing the information just as we did now, looking up the contact information for Homeland Security and providing that to the person if they needed it, but we do not have a process for accepting complaints on individuals who are not our employees.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Any questions from the public for our panelists or for our LASD representatives, whom I'm glad have stayed with us for the duration of the presentation? Thank you.
Okay, we will now go ahead and read the information for procedures for public comment. Those individuals that are attending virtually will have the opportunity to speak via WebEx by raising your hand in WebEx or pressing *3 on your phone. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak for public comment. Please note, we may have to adjust the time allocated depending on the number of individuals who have public comment. I will now turn to Commission Staff Member Robert Flores, who will make the public comment announcement in Spanish.
Buenas tardes. Usted tendrá la oportunidad de hablar por WebEx o por teléfono. Simplemente levante la mano en WebEx o presione *3 en su teléfono. Cada persona tendrá 2 minutos para hablar para comentarios públicos. Tenga en cuenta que es posible que tengamos que ajustar el tiempo asignado según la cantidad de personas que tienen comentarios públicos. Si necesita un intérprete, simplemente diga la palabra español antes de comenzar y le diremos cómo proceder. Gracias.
Our first public comment is from Andrew Rabner. You have been unmuted. Andrew?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, I don't know if it would make any difference really, but it is very notable. There's a very noticeable absence from the sheriff himself. Probably doesn't want to answer any questions from the public, I'm guessing, because despite what the LASD claims, and of course the non-LASD people actually kind of explain this a little bit to you or in their own presentations, is that LASD is like lot of other local law enforcement agencies, is assisting ICE and lying and claiming that they're not assisting ICE. It has been seen repeatedly that in immigration enforcement, when ICE raids somewhere or something, that LASD is often present assisting them. And during the protests over the last few months, we've seen LASD, attacking protesters, brutalizing protesters, like other local law enforcement agencies. And of course, you've also alluded a lot to the data sharing that LASD does. And of course, you claim, oh, well, we have to share the data. So why don't you consider not collecting the data in the first place so you wouldn't be able to share that data? I mean, how about that for an option? I mean, there's so many data. There's a massive surveillance state. That's not just LASD, it's other agencies. But this is data that gets shared with ICE, and ICE then uses it to target people for kidnappings. So, yeah.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Bina Martinez. Bina, you have been unmuted.
And thanks for COC. Y'all are are still doing Lord's work. I appreciate y'all. Continue. Hope y'all get more support and actually hit some teeth so you can do some good work. I'm sharing the same sentiment, and it really is disappointing that Sheriff Luna didn't want to be here, and that the folks that are here are giving death by PowerPoint, similar to what they probably do to their sheriff's deputies when they're giving them this information and reminding them of their roles of protecting the people. I think that it's just it's more of what they've been doing, which is also to say when they're self-policing themselves, they're doing the exact same thing. They're not really doing anything to enforce that they're doing the right thing. And it's seen easily in the fact that the things that they wanted to highlight in their presentation were more about what, a civilian who is innocently doing what they need to be doing in the public street has to be lawfully in the right place based on the biased judgment of a police officer in the middle of an altercation that they see is like life or death every single time. And to me, that's poor training because you're just bombarding them with PowerPoint, just like they did to us here, not giving any sort of substance, not actually addressing any issues that are occurring, like present day or in the recent past. I mean, again, extremely disappointing. I wish that they could answer questions without just referring to, well, we're going to this PowerPoint real quick and look up this page so they can respond to you once again that this is what we're allowed to do and then this is what we are doing without actually checking those sheriff's deputies who are not doing that, who are actually supporting ICE detention or transferring people who have been detained by them to ICE. So I hope that the COC can really dig into this and figure something out for us.
Next, we have Carolina Goodman. Carolina, you have been unmuted.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Andres, the question is to you. ICE agents violated the injunction that banned immigration arrests without a warrant at the Home Depot near MacArthur Park. My question is, how is ICE held accountable for picking up people when they shouldn't have been?
Carolina, are you done with your question?
Oh, yes. I want to know about ICE accountability. How do we hold them accountable if they break a law?
Yeah, well, that is what we're trying to do with the litigation, and we are investigating what seems to be pretty clear violation of the temporary restraining order, at least with the Home Depot raids, especially what was it yesterday in Westlake, and other Home Depot raids throughout the Southland that's covered by the temporary restraining order. So we're investigating and getting to the bottom of what went down, looking at every available piece of evidence and videos, and talking with folks who had firsthand accounts. We'll need to continue holding them accountable through the courts. Unfortunately, that's the recourse that we have because we won't be able to have the DHS or the federal government police itself, so to speak. And so we will need to continue to ask the judicial branch to hold the feds accountable here. I want to see if also Janet Wichitla would have anything to add, given that Chitla has been instrumental in ensuring this litigation is filed and continuing to work with the ACLU and other community organizations to fight the federal government and stop them from all their illegal actions and to ensure that they're following the law.
Yeah, thank you, Andres. We're also co-litigants and co-plaintiffs on this case, on the TRO case. And as Andres said, we're investigating, seeing the many ways that this TRO has been potentially violated by federal agents. But I think it's really important for us to understand that the federal government is just trying to test its limits, right? They are really trying to push the boundaries here, and it's our job to continue to monitor them, to engage with witnesses, and the case is ongoing. The temporary restraining order is just one piece of the puzzle, right? We are also filing to get a more permanent solution as well, and have the case present itself. So all of this is going to be part of that active ongoing case. But it's really important that that we continue to investigate, document, and supplement the evidence that we present, right? Because it's all part of this ongoing active litigation that we're all involved in here.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Angelica G. Angelica, you have been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I wanted to thank everyone. Good evening, everyone, for being here. I appreciate that this is going on. My comment is regarding the video that was shown. I understand that that video is being put out there so that we, the public, are able to identify these officers. But again, we're not really being given information on what we're supposed to do in the moment. If somebody is there grabbing you, if they're there pulling you, how am I supposed to stop to check to see if this is an actual police officer? What are we being given to protect ourselves? Why aren't we being given more information as far as how to identify them or what's being done to them? It's really not fair that we come here, and I appreciate you guys reading these slides, but this is all information that we can already go and get ourselves, right? So we need more information on what we're going to be doing moving forward. How are we going to identify these fake officers? They're not officers. These fake officers that are just kidnapping people off the street. So my question is, if somebody can just answer me, how am I supposed to stop them in the moment? Please tell me how I'm supposed to do that. And that's for anybody to answer.
Hi, this is Lieutenant Brown from Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Anytime you guys are in question or you're in fear, you can call 911 and we will respond accordingly. So if you feel as though that you're unsure if that person is law enforcement or not, call 911 and we will respond.
I do want to suggest, in response to, I think, a very earnest and widely shared question from Angelica, the incredible scenarios provided by Chirla in some of the most valuable actual scenario-based role-playing exercises seen in the last 6 months. Especially circulating now during the period of what Supervisor Janice Hahn rightly calls the federal invasion of LA County. Those kind of role-playing videos are incredibly valuable. I think Chirla has done an incredible job to circulate them, but I do just want to raise the inference from the question that perhaps the Sheriff's Department and perhaps our own COC could contemplate doing some role-playing videos of the kind requested and of the kind that Chirla and others have provided for Angelinos dealing with the minefield that has become our city and county, including, even as this question and answer has revealed, the process of making complaints that are trustworthy and have reliable channels of recourse for them. So I just want to recognize for the questioner that the earnestness of your appeal has been heard, and I want to ask any other of the panelists to provide a response if they might.
Yeah, I'll just add, there is state legislation moving right now, SB 805, that would require all law enforcement agents to wear clearly identifiable uniforms. This also applies to federal law enforcement as well. And if anyone is suspected of impersonating a police officer or any law enforcement entity, that individual would also have to provide identification and, for example, a badge and a card. So this is moving through the state legislative process. There are some bills that are being fast-tracked, and right now they're in summer recess, but they'll be back August 16th, August 17th. And so as soon as this bill passes both houses and goes to the governor, it would be immediate. It would become law immediately. We're hoping that those bills, again, will get fast tracked because no one knew that this is the way our federal government was going to conduct ICE operations, right? A lot of this caught many of us by surprise in terms of the illegal ways and unconstitutional manner that they're operating. And so the legislature is trying to respond as quickly as possible. And there's also a bill moving at the state level to disallow the use of masks. And so many entities are trying to address the issues that we're seeing.
Andres, or should I pass it to our Executive Director, Charmaine? Charmaine.
Chair
Thank
Johnson.
you.
I'm sorry, Chair Johnson, just want to let you know we still have a few public comments.
I understand.
Yeah. I just had a question and maybe a comment, more comment, because I know Mr. Reyes, there was one of the slides that talked about know your rights, and I'm hearing some of the public comments. And, you know, watching the videos, you see so many different uniforms from LASD. It can become confusing for the public to be able to identify, you know, the uniforms. And then knowing that some of the agents, they have police on their uniforms. And then in very small words, you would see Homeland Security, or you would see, you know, their actual agency. So I think it would be important for us also, you know, in addition to role playing, to have like maybe like a know your rights session. And, you know, there's something that this commission can actually do also to be able to help and to help keep everyone safe and to know what to do and not to do and how to respond. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
And as Commission Chair, I certainly welcome that suggestion and look forward to advancing and fulfilling that in the weeks ahead. With that, I think we can shift back to public comments or questions.
Our next public comment is from Chris Triggerfix. Chris, you have been unmuted. Chris, you have been unmuted. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next. Our next public comment is from Gina Viola. Gina, you have been unmuted. Gina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So LA County is moving forward with creating an ordinance requiring ICE agents to uncover faces. I am someone who has been on the ground at Men's Central Jail as well as Sataquai Elementary, where I've witnessed firsthand LA Sheriff's Department covering up their own badges and their own faces. So my question would be for the, I guess for the Sheriff's Department and perhaps the Civilian Oversight Commission, who is going to enforce this ordinance?
Hi, so unfortunately, I can't speak to the specific scenarios, the instances that you're talking about. However, if those were reported, and you could file a complaint on those and we could investigate those. Without any of the details, like I said, unfortunately, I can't speak to them, but we do have the complaint process for the department. And if violations of our policy are found, then we do investigate those. And the OIG also evaluates our investigations, our own personnel investigations as well.
I do want to jump in here and say that like this is the biggest problem when the executive branch is doing something that's unconstitutional and then the court tells them it's unconstitutional. Who enforces it, right? The Supreme Court doesn't have any sort of army, right? And so there's a question as to whether the state even has any sort of jurisdiction over these federal agents. I used to be a deputy district attorney, and we would have cases where federal agents were involved in the investigation of the case. and we would subpoena the federal agents, and our subpoenas were no good because you can't subpoena a federal agent as a state employee or a county employee. And so, I mean, I understand why this is so upsetting, but I think we have to acknowledge that enforcement may not be something that will actually happen. I think this is a very sad state of affairs, but I don't think that just by saying that the sheriff's department can investigate, well, if they investigate, who's going to charge them, right? Is the district attorney's office going to charge them? Is the federal government going to even have their employees abide by any charging document against one of their employees, right? I mean, they will fight it in court, right? Trump should just go ahead and pardon anybody that he wants to pardon, right? So he can only pardon them, I think, on federal charges. I can't remember. I don't think he has the ability to pardon people on state charges.
No.
But he can certainly just avoid the whole thing by not having them be in California, right? And I think that at some point in time, we're asking a lot for the county sheriff's department to go investigate and have the county district attorney file on federal officers. And I really think it's unlikely that a federal court is going to allow a state law dictate what federal agents can do. So as distressing as that is, I still think we have to acknowledge that there's a good chance that that's the way this is going to go.
Any other comments in response to that question?
We can return to additional public comments. We have Mike Romero. Mike, you have been unmuted. Mike?
Civilian Oversight Committee, but for putting this together, I really appreciate it. Lots of good information. I do want to have a comment for the sheriff. Of course, they're not going to answer, but I know you mentioned about calling 911 if we see a violation or possible fake ICE agent. Well, I did call about 3-4 weeks ago because we thought we seen some ICE agents in front of my kids' elementary school. What happened, it was very frustrating when I called my local sheriff department, East LA Station. I called them. They just gave me pushback of they didn't want to get there, or they were too busy, or just the runaround as the usual. I finally demanded to talk to watch commander. I talked to the watch commander, and what he told me, he gave me of course the runaround. You know what? We don't deal with that school. You got to call the school police. Okay. So this was an emergency. So I of course, all the parents were frustrated. They finally left. I don't know who they were looking for, but the next day I called the school police, and I guess for all the parents, it seems like the school police takes care of some schools in your area, and the sheriff or the police, local police, takes care of other schools. So they have their own list. So I called the school police, and they told me that they don't take care of that school, and that it's the sheriff. So for the watch commander to push me off and do that kind of deal, and I could just see him behind his desk joking around with his buddy maybe after he hung up with me, that's unacceptable. There's a big gap between the sheriff. It's always the finger pointing, passing the buck, and all that. It's very frustrating, and we know you guys do it. We all know. And then lastly, my comment or request from Ms. Williams, I think you mentioned you could email the sheriff policy of the list of what sheriffs can do. How can I get that emailed to me? Maybe offer. I think you offered it, but I'd like to get that.
Sure. So if you go to our website and you there's a way to just email Inspector General. It's just inspectorgeneral@oig.lacounty.gov. And then if you go to our website, you can just email us directly. And then the person who monitors that email will send it to me. And so if you just say, Dara said I could have this, then she'll send you the email. And then I'll have your email address and I can email you whatever policies you want.
Our next public.
I just want to follow up on the point made by the commenter that it's unusual for people to know the lingo sufficient to ask for a watch commander and to even go through that step and to not achieve a satisfactory response certainly raises a concern from our standpoint. And I want to just thank the caller for persisting and for going through that channel of recourse. And I want to just flag this for the LASD representatives here with us tonight. As the first week of school happens next Thursday, a week hence, just a week from today, we are expecting, if not on the first day, when there will be a large presence of people at schools. We know that ICE agents have attempted to access schools here in Los Angeles in May, and that it was only because of training and because of recently installed gate locks at LAUSD locations that those agents were kept out of the school, who were using false pretenses in an attempt to gain access to 2 South LA schools. We are seeing probes of LAUSD locations to see if there is a soft underbelly. And I just want to ask if, in advance of the first day of school in particular, if LASD can ensure that there is a communication, a directive to stations about such calls, and that there be a protocol and an enhanced ability to respond, that Mike Romero's situation, if at all possible, be allowed not to recur if it happens henceforth.
Our next public comment, looks like we have a hand raised by Dara.
Just briefly, I mean, there are school resource deputies at these schools. And the thing is that, you know, there is a Ninth Circuit order that basically says you can't conduct warrantless arrests, right? And I mean, a lot of what we see when these businesses are raided, when schools are raided, that's because a lot of, you know, the owners of the businesses may not even know their rights, right? Because they have a right to say, it's one thing to go into an open business, but to go into a kitchen of a business or a private area of a business, federal agents can't just do that, right? And so we see a lot of that because the owner of the business may not know, or may not really, you know, it's not, that person isn't the person who ultimately bears the consequences of ICE agents raiding the business, right? But sheriff's department, school resource deputies can certainly say to a law enforcement agent from the federal government, why are you here? What is your reasonable suspicion or probable cause for entering a school campus? And a school resource officer can keep them from coming onto the school premises, in my opinion, if the federal government doesn't have some sort of warrant or an explanation of some sort of exigent circumstance that would allow them to have access to what is a closed location.
Thank you. And I want to ask if we can just go a little bit beyond our intended cutoff time, maybe 5 minutes, so that we can get the continued line of questions heard and responded to.
Yes, we have a few more public comments. We'll move to Vanessa Perez. Vanessa, you have been unmuted. Vanessa?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm the mother of Joseph Perez. To the lady that's asked about the deputies taking accountability, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. They won't even take accountability when they beat our children or kill them. How are they going to take accountability by taking innocent people off the street? And the second thing I want to say is, how come if LASD, if Luna is saying LASD wants nothing to do with this immigration, then why aren't his deputies taking a knee when they're out there standing? Why aren't his deputies taking a knee to show the community that they are indeed not with the ICE agents? And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is...
I will just, if I may, Vanessa, thank you for that question. And you know, the basic thrust and the premise of sanctuary policies is that we want every resident, immigrant or otherwise, to be able to trust and access local government services, county government services. And what happened with the Sheriff's Department in Paramount, the perception even of the Sheriff's Department assisting or in any way advancing ICE and the federal government and immigration enforcement obliterates and destroys any public trust, any trust the community may have with the Sheriff's Department and the county government. And so this needs to be looked into, seriously looked into by the county, and ensuring that any response to mutual aid requests does not in any way advance immigration enforcement. The LA City Council and the LAPD and the Board of Police Commissioners is looking into this and trying to significantly limit the situations and circumstances in which the LAPD can respond to mutual aid requests. And so we would ask the same of the COC and the county government to also look into this and significantly limit the circumstances in which the LASD can respond to mutual aid requests. That LASD doesn't just take ICE at face value and the federal government at face value, because we've seen them and repeatedly caught them red-handed in lies.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Javier Gonzalez. Javier, you have been unmuted. Javier?
Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Javier Gonzalez. Some of you may know me. I live in East LA. I'm calling because I've been doing extensive research with a group of people and found some very disturbing stuff about data sharing between the Sheriff's Department through what's called a fusion center. The Sheriff's Department apparently runs what's called the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, the JRIC, which includes Los Angeles, San Bernardino, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. It is the largest of 80 fusion centers in the nation. And Wired Magazine, the ACLU of Northern California, and a lot of people have written, going back to 2017, that the fusion centers have been collecting data that is synchronized with the Department of Homeland Security. In an 1,800-page response to an information request, they admitted that 9,000 ICE agents have access to the data, that it has over 150 million license plates, that the body cameras, through a contract that was introduced by Sheriff McDonald and renewed by Villanueva with Palantir, has facial recognition software that is both on the body cameras and the patrol cars. So I think that ICE is being supported by the LA County Sheriff's Department, but it's also largely not on the ground. I think it's disturbing what we see with our eyes, that the sheriffs are helping ICE agents on the ground. But what's more important, and we should all look into, and you all have a tremendous opportunity here to look at what the ACLU and Wired Magazine going back have shown, that Stephen Miller, who we cannot trust, whose access through Trump Medicaid data, the IRS chief resigned because he didn't want to share data. It is multiple agencies that have said ICE is accessing this database. And the other thing is Trump just listed all the sanctuary cities and counties, and he did not list LA County. So the reason they call us criminals and terrorists is because when they go into this database to put people on the alert list, they want to have full
Thank you.
This body has.
Our next public comment is from Rosalind Scarborough. Rosalind, you have been unmuted. Rosalind?
Yes, let me take this off of here and put it on speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right. I'm a bit disheartened. I could say a whole lot, but I won't at this point. But I do want to just ask, is there anybody at all who should be deported? And secondly, if ICE is able to deport anyone at all that they have a legal right to, what does that look like? And if the public sees them doing that, what should the public refrain from doing as far as interfering when, if they are rightfully executing their duties? I also want to bring to mind that what's disheartening about this is look at all the slides that you guys have. Listen to the communities that we're talking about. Everything about immigration, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, seems to be about there's only one group of people that matter, and that is the Hispanic and Latino community. There are many immigrants who are being deported, but we only focusing on that one. That's one. But when you look at Pico Rivera, for instance, where you were showing that there's 90% Latino concentration, 30% of them undocumented, if they went there to start getting people and you're saying they can't identify with people's race, it's a contradiction. There's a whole lot more I could say about that, but I'm just saying we have to at least be fair. ICE has a role. What are they allowed to do? And in these Know Your Rights seminars, we should also be saying what are their rights and how do we respect them? I'm a mediator.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Michelle Dunker Arkin. Michelle, you have been unmuted.
I have to admit that it's overwhelming to even just speak in this forum because it's hard to trust that anywhere we speak is safe. But to speak with complete honesty about the nature of our law enforcement in this county that I have directly experienced has completely rocked my foundation. And what I understand is the role of law enforcement within my community, because I have been directly confronted in ways that make no sense as a protester, and I've heard zero comment or acknowledgement of the fact that despite the fact that the people on this call are calling us to protest as citizens and have virtually said we cannot count on our local law enforcement to protect us, that we as citizens don't know who to go to when we are trying to do what we're called to do to protect democracy. I am frustrated. I'm scared. I am disheartened, as the woman before me said over and over. And I'm being transparent and honest that I do not know how or where to be of the most use and like how to be efficient, how to be of purpose when I don't understand the structure of my own government or my local policies to trust that court orders are being observed or acknowledged or respected by our federal government. I want to have it on the record. I am a white woman who lives in Los Angeles County, and I don't trust anyone. And I want to know how to help, but I don't know where to go.
Thank you. Our final public comment is from Chris Triggerfix. Chris, you have been unmuted. Chris, you have been unmuted. Hearing no response from Chris, that was our final comment. We can move forward.
Well, Thank you, Tracy, for your moderation, and thank you again to all of the panelists for being with us tonight. Thanks to my fellow members of the Civilian Oversight Commission staff and family, and thanks to the Sheriff's Department representatives in particular for joining us. This is not an easy conversation, and it doesn't have easy solutions. And I think in light of the comments of the next to last commenter, I just want to say that we are here tonight to exercise the channels of accountability that we do have, and to make local democracy work in some very trying and challenging circumstances. That's partly why we called this forum amidst the last 2 months of what Supervisor Hahn has rightly called a federal invasion of Los Angeles County, and to answer questions which we didn't all answer tonight, but which through collaboration, we are developing solutions and we are getting questions answered. And we are showing a great deal of efficacy in building accountability into our work and to making Angelenos feel like we do have power of accountability here in our communities. So that work continues. It continues despite the monthly layoff that we have with our monthly COC meetings. We will be back with a monthly public meeting of the COC in September, and we have ongoing work by our committees of our COC taking place even during this monthly lull. I want to refer people to the website of the Civilian Oversight Commission and to our social media channels. And once again, to thank our panelists for the amount of information they provide and that their websites provide for recourse and accountability, and to take advantage of the complaint process available on the Sheriff's Department website, and to thank again those representatives who are here with us. With that, I want to bring this public forum of the Civilian Oversight Commission to a close, and thank people again for their indulgence in going a little over time with our planned agenda this evening. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everyone, and thank you.